Hello, everyone, and welcome to the About Circus podcast. I am Kertu Opus, and here at the studio with me today we have Hanna Moisala.
Hello, hello.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you so
We're
much.
so happy to have you here. You have trekked down from Oulu today. You've been sitting in the car, and now we're forcing you to sit here and talk to us.
No, it's great to sit on the floor and I can stretch a little bit at the same time.
Yeah. Let's get right into it. I always try to not do too much of a introduction to what your background is, like where you went to school and things, because I want to avoid asking questions that are Googleable. But I couldn't easily Google your bio. I didn't find it on your website, at least very, like just a description of what it is that you do now. But in terms of your history, of course, I know some of it, but could you give us a quick debrief? I know that Lumo company was started in 2015,
Yeah.
but your history in Circus goes back quite a bit before that. Could you give us a little bit of a brief history of Hanna Moisala?
Of course. So when I was young, no, I think it starts from when I was really young.
Yeah.
And I was running like a forest camp. Long distance running was my hobby.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was. But then it all started when the Circus Finlandia actually came literally in our backyard. We had a big field next to our house when I was 11 years old. So that's how I got to know the circus as an art form. And it was the first time. So years goes by and I was seeing circus every summer when the Finlandia kind of came into our backyard, and we became really good friends with Kalle. And I also wanted to run away with the circus when I was younger, but I couldn't. They didn't take me because I needed to go to school and my mom didn't let me. Yada, yada, yada. And then I found from those kind of books that you can find different schools around in Finland that you can apply. So I was already an adult, like a proper adult, and I went to the hairdresser school and I graduated from there, and I already lived in Amsterdam for a while, and I moved back and I found this book and it said that in Turku there's a vocational school, university, that you can apply and study to be a circus artist. So that's when I applied and I got into the school. But I was the oldest from this year compared to all the others who were coming to the school as well. I think, if I remember right, I was 24 when I started.
What year did you graduate from Turku?
2008. So that's when I graduated, and that's how long I've done circus as like my main professional.
Okay, so since 2008 until 2015, when you started Lumo officially, you were working as a circus artist.
Yes, I was working as a circus artist. We had a company also. It was called Kuusir, and it was established together with our classmates.
Yeah.
Like usually a lot of that happens. But then we kind of separated after a few years after the graduation. I was teaching in Lappeenranta and then also in Tampere and then eventually to Helsinki. And I was kind of going through the time that I'm not getting enough for my own artistic work, time for creations and training. So I went to UK, London, to study more circus. And then I studied there for 1 year.
And what program was that?
That was an MA, but it doesn't exist anymore.
Was it at Circus Space?
Yes, but now National Center for Circus Arts.
Yes,
Yeah.
This I remember. I knew the story about the Circus Finlandia and the Kalle connection because I have read it in an interview of yours. And then, just if anybody's interested, our personal history goes to Soren Circus, I think right before you went to London.
Exactly.
So this would have been like 2010s or something.
Yes.
Something around that time.
Yeah.
Because I left to Montreal 2011 You graduated 2008, you said, from
Yeah.
Turku. So in those years before you went to London to get your MA, that's when we have met the
Yeah,
first time.
exactly. And I went to London in 2013.
Yeah.
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 That's true. We met in Tampere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, at Sorin. And you went to London 2013. Yeah, right. And then you did a year of MA there. And did you stayed to live there for a while?
Yeah. Then it kind of accidentally happened that there was already work on the table, like immediately.
Yeah.
Already before graduating. Yeah. So I stayed, and that was 7 years long staying.
Yeah. I want to ask you more about London, about the master's program, because there aren't a lot of master's programs for circus that exist. As of what I know now, there is one in Stockholm.
Yes, I agree.
I don't think that many of those people like continue to be performers necessarily. I kind of have a more like academic connotation even with the master's program. But of course, I don't know. This is just my impression from not knowing very much. And you said yours doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I think it was running like a couple of years. It was super expensive. I mean, you need to pay for the studies anyway abroad.
Yeah.
But then there was a MA in Bristol, I think.
Yep, that's true.
And that was directing contemporary circus. But that also doesn't run anymore.
That's the one that Merimaija has done.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. We in this Circus Next context, we have met most other people actually who are in the finalists with us this year are have masters.
Yeah.
But I think often they're not in circus. They're in something else. They're in choreography or dramaturgy or something like this. But tell me a little bit about that program. Like, how did it impact you, having had your background in Turku, which is kind of more this like technical pedagogical thing? I'm assuming the masters was more about artistic creation and those kind of things. Like, how did that? What was that like?
I think for me it came on the perfect timing because I was already urging to get more into the creative work and time for myself because the teaching was taking so much time in Finland. And I felt like that was my loop that I was kind of starting to suffer because this teaching was fun and I wanted to give it like 100% or even more. But then again, it was kind of keeping me in one place and the creativity in me wasn't getting enough attention. So that study as like a lifeline came in just the right moment. But you already needed to have like an idea of not the thesis, but you needed to have like an idea that you were applying to get into the school. And then you concentrate on that, and eventually that is the study that you do, like a research and exam, and the writing and all is based on that. It was great. I was like a sponge, sucking everything in. I took all the classes and even more. I enjoyed everyone and the new people I met. It was like super fruitful for me.
What was the subject of your thesis?
Actually, it was based on the idea of creating a circus company.
Okay.
So eventually that led to building Lumo company. So that was 2015.
Yeah.
I had a business plan also included with that, but that business plan didn't go through when it was finished.
Yeah. I remembered that I skipped a question. I went straight to your history, but normally I always ask the people first what they call themselves. So now, do you call yourself master of circus or what do you?
Yeah, no.
Do you call yourself a circus artist?
I call myself a circus artist.
Yeah. Do you call yourself anything else?
I call myself sometimes a taitwa dancer.
Interesting. I want to do a shout out here actually to Viivi Roiha, who I'm really hoping we could get on the podcast, but I'm not sure if it's possible. In my conversation with Onni, we were talking about definitions because Onni said he identifies as a juggler first, which makes sense, I think, for him and considering what juggling is. We had a long conversation about it. And I said, oh, that's true. I don't know other people who first identify through their discipline before they identify as a circus artist. And then Vivi actually messaged me and said, I think I do. I think that I'm an aerialist. And now I really hope that, I'm just paraphrasing what Vivi said to me in a message. It would be really lovely to actually talk about it. But for you, does circus artist come first?
It's a bit of situation or
Yeah.
the what context that it comes out. It depends on who I'm talking to or where it kind of comes out. But it's either a tight wire dancer or a circus artist.
Yeah. What about on the production sense? Like, do you call yourself
Circus artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I do a circus artist.
And if you speak to people who don't know this industry at all, do you still say circus artist?
Yeah, I feel like with the colleagues, I always say that I'm a circus artist. I don't say tight wire dancer.
Yeah.
But then if it's like they never heard a circus artist mentioned before, then I might go immediately after that. I'm a tight wire dancer.
That's yeah, because that's a more recognizable thing.
So it doesn't come to the point that everybody's asking that where's my lions are and etc. etc.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think that may be a little bit related to what Onni said, because one of his points was that juggling is a thing outside of circus too.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And that's why he finds that it was one of the reasons. But tight wire is such a recognizable part of circus, even for people who do not understand contemporary circus. Like, kind of, if you have this idea in your head about what circus is, tight wire is pretty high on the list of like, yes, animals, elephants, trapeze, tight wire. It's in there. So it makes sense that that's how you would.
It's definitely
identify.
Because of that. And then if it's someone who's never heard of it before, they go like, so you hang on the trapeze, and I was like, no, I walk on a tight wire.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, maybe.
This leads kind of nicely into a conversation about discipline that I always like to have. Having watched some of your work on video now recently in preparation, and also like knowing who you are and where you come from, tight wire is a part of every artistic process that you do. You do tight wire in all of your shows. Is that correct? Oh, not in the outside shows.
Not all. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was going to say that not on all of the outside shows.
Yeah.
But wait a minute. Yeah, it has been on indoor shows. Yeah, like a theater. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, do you build the idea of the show around the tight wire? Like, does it start from the tight wire, or do you build the show as an idea and then you put tight wire in it?
Actually, it has changed now through these years. In the beginning, like when there was the first like solo show, it was built around the tight wire. I already knew that I will have this structure, I will have the tight wire, and it's gonna be around it. And the theme was then the shibari rope work, which ended on being wired through the full show. It has continued to be in like a medium that I can use, which is the most known in my body and my discipline in the shows. But now it has started to change, I would say maybe like the last 3 years, that I feel like I don't necessarily want to put it there if it doesn't have a place to be there.
Yeah.
Because the shows nowadays, maybe it's not comparable for the nowadays and like before and after. But I feel like whatever happens in the show, whatever the creation is, that they need to have a purpose. It's just, I don't want to have a apparatus in the stage if it's not supposed to be there.
Yep.
And just in the sake that that's my medium, what I do. So it's more harder nowadays.
Yeah.
And also sometimes I've felt like with some of the creation that the tight wire is gonna be there, but then eventually I don't have any time to do the wire until the last moment, because everything else in the show needs to come up first, and then I'm lacking the time of kind of concentrating on the most medium that I do.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I suffer.
Yeah, I definitely relate with that experience of being like, okay, well, here's the thing we know we can do.
Exactly.
So let's deal with all this technical bullshit.
Yep.
And then actually it all the time is to build the thing, and then at the end you're like, oh, now actually the thing that I felt most confident with is now the thing that I
Yeah.
wish I would have had time to focus on more. Like, because it's your repertoire, it's like your vocabulary.
Exactly. And also from the working group, it might come that we kind of start to talk about it like, and here is the section where the sideway is going to happen. And it's like, well, also that needs the research. It's just not going to happen. It needs to happen. We cannot just leave it until the end like it's an automatic thing. It also needs to come, what is the movement quality, what emphasize most the show, and how does it look on the body if I'm expressing that through it.
Yeah, this is also leads really nicely into this, like, how do the creations get structured? I notice from your work that aesthetics and the design of them is a pretty like heavily emphasized part of it. And I was curious about like if what it looks like, it's the first thing that you think about and then what goes in it? Or how do you develop, like what's the first thing that you think about when you're conceiving a new show?
I have a feeling that I have visions, like some kind of a scenery or vision in a picture in my head. I kind of don't know the whole core necessarily. It might be the seed that it's already in me like 7 years ago, or it was in the beginning of some other show that never ended on that show. And then eventually this vision or this kind of a picture is in my head. For example, this is like very true and so vividly in my mind that when we were creating Floem, that I was speaking to Jere, who is the light designer, that I was saying that I need to get this picture out of my head because this is the state's scenery that I see. And Jere was like, okay, explain to me what it is. And I was saying that like, there's a big tree trunk on the stage, and it's a circle. And I don't know if it's hollow inside, but it's a tree. And then we started like drawing. We used it AI, and you know how that story goes. And then they go to some visual, beautiful Cirque du Soleil kind of images quite soon. But then in one of those pictures that we were kind of putting things on paper, eventually that stayed. It was out from the table, but eventually when the show was like finished, that was the image. So I would say like there's an image, and I don't know if this comes from the love for the movies that I've always been very keen and interested about, or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then from there, you kind of start to build, like you have this vision of the image, and then what happens after that? Like how do you then move on to what happens? Like because in Floem, for example, like you do wire, and you do this counterweight aerial thing that you also do in fine line. But then there's also this thing with a tree, with this Gelo tree. When did that come into the picture? Like at which point do you start to conceive like, okay, what happens and what are the objects? And
the tree was always there. I literally went to see so many trees on a forest, and I went to see this massive 6 meters tall tree trunk, what was pulled out from the ground with the what are the things that grow? Roots. With the roots, it was pulled out from the ground full, like with the roots still on. I went to see that twice. That tree existed somewhere in Ylitornio.
amazing.
Yeah, and I was like, through some weird social media, I just spotted it there, and I contacted the person who made the video. I was like, where is this tree? Is it on sale? Like, what happens to the tree? And he was like, yeah, you can buy it if you want. I was like, okay, I'm coming to see the tree. He was like, yeah, you can. So I went to see that trunk for a couple of times. And I was like, this is what the show is going to be. But obviously it's 6 meters long and it was 70 centimeters like diameter. It was super big. And I kept it on with me for so long. And I was like, how am I going to be transporting this with the different countries? I have to buy a truck. Then I went on, the budget thing. I was like, I have to buy a truck. I have to do this. Then I cut it a little bit down. I was like, okay, I'm going to take 3 trunks, which fits to my van. And from there, it went for the whole system of what is the tree actually, and what is the life of a pine tree and a kello tree, how that forms, and what is the flower that in Finnish history you made food out of it, and then the food came into the picture. And now it's a gastronomy, contemporary circus combined show. Yeah. So it all kind of grew one to another, and then eventually we were making the flour ourselves. Powdering that, and that's a long process.
I can imagine. That's cool. So you just became obsessed with a tree.
Exactly.
And then everything unfolded. Did that happen? Did the tree obsession coincide with the image in your head? That you were like, oh, I have this image of a tree, and then you saw this tree and you went to, like, there was just this kind of intuitive that you wanted a tree on stage.
Yeah, I wanted to have the tree on stage. And then eventually everything started to be so super interesting. And there's so many studies about the kello tree that all of that kind of at the dying process started to intrigue me so much. And I was like, there's so much beauty in this dying process. And then eventually being there as a dead tree for another 400 years in this world.
And what's really cool about that is that this like life of the tree and of the forest as a source of inspiration in Finnish art is a very profound historical thing, that there is lots of old art and lots of contemporary art that is being made about trees. We saw one in Mäntä at the Serlachius Museum last summer that the artist had somehow did a long research into the smell, like the essence of the trees. And you could smell them and mix the perfumes, and there was the noise at the same time. Like, it's really cool that through your medium, which is circus, you can kind of like open up this thematic that is like to Finnish culture quite relevant. It's cool to hear somebody say like, why did you do this? And just be like, because I wanted to. Like, why a tree? I don't know. I just wanted a tree. Like,
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. I'm still a little bit crying after that tree that it didn't end up on the show, the 3 meters trunk. But I would need it to have a truck.
But that's why the process of you having this piece of tree, then eventually in the show that you do this choreography with, because you had this image of the tree. But then I would say that the curtains with the projections and stuff, it just does look like a really big tree. Yeah, that's cool. And then when the tight wire comes into that picture.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the thing, because also there's like so many different references in what comes to tight wire, because it's like life is on a balance. You need to balance that and that. You go to A to B, it's dangerous, or it can be referring to a lot of things inside of the creation that you're doing. And how that is in the show, I feel like also there's the interest in me as an artist that I do want to develop the medium that I do further and further. I don't think that studies will end ever. So that has also kind of a changed in me, that what is the quality of the movement and how can I emphasize whatever I'm doing on a wire related to that show.
And what is that link? Like, let's say in Floem, what was the aspect of the thematic of the tree that you were trying to bring into the tight wire?
You know, the tiny little essence which is the phloem, which is actually the water that goes between the layers in the tree. And sometimes there's also animals that makes these roots inside. So it was kind of a cutting that edge of between the bark layers. And then the quality of that is that the movement is the animal, the insect of kind of a moving.
Yeah. So you think about it not necessarily in the technique of the wire technique, but more in your body in terms of this choreographical expression that relates to the.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting because this is a common conversation that I have with people about how when you want to make circus about something, making the technique speak to what you want to speak to, it's almost an impossible task. And Onni, for example, he's a good example because he doesn't try to do that. Because for him, the juggling is always the starting point. And then in our practice, we do try to do that. But then the way that we try to do it is by creating these objects that maybe the object kind of speaks to the theme. And then if we do circus with the object, then we have this. Da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
But this like making meaning with circus is actually a really, really difficult thing to do. And with the tight wire, I can see that because it is tight wire dancing, like you are dancing on the wire, so choreography is an expressive form of yours, then you almost have like more stuff to play with because it's not exactly your steps and the tricks that you do that have to connect to the show, but the way that you move can kind of do that as if it was a dance performance, for example. And I would say actually based on watching the shows on video that they are kind of formulated like a contemporary dance show. Like the way that they move, especially in regards to music, like both Floem and Fine Line have this musical atmosphere that is kind of ongoing, which I find is often also what happens in contemporary dance performances, that you don't have scenes or acts, you just kind of are constantly in motion. Do you use words like an act when you're making your shows? Do you say here's a tight wire act and here is this act, or what's the terminology?
It might have been in some time that it's worded out. You know, if you line out the scenes at the beginning, whatever, it might be a tight wire, or it might have. Wait, what is it called in flying line? It's not definitely a tight wire. It's called. Is it called butchery? I cannot remember, but it's like it's about the scene.
Yeah.
Not about necessarily the medium.
Oh, so you name the scene?
Yeah, I named the scene. Or we named the scenes.
Cool.
Yeah.
I haven't heard nobody else has told me that yet, that they name the scene like as a choreography, that you name what's happening.
Okay, this is interesting.
Yeah. I don't know who, I think maybe Armas would have said that in Arctic they can say act, which makes a lot more sense because of the way that they are formulated. We say moments. Do you say transitions?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is a scene and there's a transition and then there's a scene.
Yeah.
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 It's just interesting, like, though, because I think the words that we use does kind of speak to how do we think about the structure of it all. And I think specifically because of the music, I didn't see, especially in Floem, but also in Fine Line, I didn't see a lot of like cut and now we are into the next thing. Like it was a very ongoing kind of in the same mood. It was very refreshing actually in Fine Line that you have this kind of long, prolonged beginning piece, that choreography with the wires, and then it gets cut by a disco ball.
Yeah.
That comes down from the roof, and then it like really switches the vibe. I wanted to know if that was something that came from you. I know Mikki did the lights, or did it come from Mikki, or like why did you decide to cut it with a disco ball at that moment?
It came from us, but obviously everything is together.
Yeah.
Decisions and it comes together with the sound and the lights eventually. But I think it was from the beginning we had this very strong image with Annina and Evalds that the whole show is about the fine line between different things, that it can be so many things, that in this room there's slaughtery or butchery or something very brutal or something non-human or is happening in this room, and there's only a wall and there's a rave party in this room, and it's exactly about that.
Yeah.
That was the image, and we also printed that on the T-shirts, like as an image, that there's a butchery or slaughtery, and then there's like a rave on the other side of the house.
Yeah.
And we went through a lot of like different themes and experiences of this, that how we end up on living in such a bubble ourselves, that you kind of know the horrible things happening in the world, but you can be isolated so easily. But you know, it's just a fine line. You know, the world is not so big eventually, and it's not so. The brutalism and the beauty lies in the same moment. It's at the same time, the dying can be beautiful, but also horrible. And originally, way back before the fine line process, there was a photo exhibition that spoke to me a lot, and that was super brutal by this from the state guy, Michael Brown. I have to check that.
Yeah.
And the exhibition was about war, and he went to different wars around the world, and the pictures were there, and it was so brutal. And he was speaking also as a voice on the background, that it's unbelievable that you can be present on those moments and going through and seeing your kind of documenting things from the war with the picture and camera, and you get used to seeing dead people. And how the fuck does that happen?
Yeah.
That through that lens, suddenly it's like okay to see, and it's not okay. The war is not okay. It's never okay. And that traumatized him a lot.
Of course.
And obviously. But same time, when I was watching the pictures, some of them were so beautiful, and not in the sense of the war, but the human body. And I was appreciating the moment that he managed to show the exhibition. And I was crying, but at the same time, it was beautiful. Absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
And I'm still kind of like starting to shake, and my voice starts to go a little bit, super intense. And that was like the original
Of fine line.
fine line.
Yeah, wow. Is that a common trajectory for you, that you are inspired by some other kind of art and then you bring that into your own art form? Like, is that often a place where you find inspiration?
I think it happens in a way that you don't necessarily understand. I would love to be inspired like more than I can, and usually it's only the own kind of the power will in me, that I'm so exhausted about creating or performing that sometimes I choose not to go somewhere because I cannot take it in.
Yeah.
But whenever there's a moment that I can go and take it in, it might affect in that moment or years after.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it goes in hand to hand. I think the
Yeah.
inspiration kind of lies everywhere, even in this conversation.
Yeah. I know some artists who curate very carefully what kind of culture they consume. Like, I know some people who have a list of these are movies that I want to watch, this is music that I want to listen to. And I even know some artists who purposefully put things in there they don't think they're gonna enjoy, because they don't want to train themselves to only seek comfort when they are looking at art. That's a really intense thing to do. I think I go to art museums a lot, but it's because I find it enjoyable. I don't purposefully listen to free jazz just to get my brain used to, like, most of the time when I seek out inspiration, I do it through enjoyment of wanting something. But it's interesting hearing you talk now about this photo exhibit and how it had a big impact on you. It still has a big impact on you. That's something that was really profoundly uncomfortable. Like, it caused a grief in you. And then somehow that grief kind of got translated into this process where you were trying to balance this, like, oh, there's a party, and then there is this macabre, horrible thing on the other side of it. Was that an image, like a picture that you saw in your head, that the two sides were there?
No, that was a conversational kind of a discussion that we were talking with Annina and Evals, the members of the creation team that we built the show together. That was kind of that we were imagining that situation together, that can you imagine that this is the thing that we are actually doing. And now that we are speaking about it, and we just warmed it up the show like yesterday or day before, a couple of days, and it is intense, and it is brutal for your body as well, and it hurts a lot. And I think also, like, all of that, we were so into the creation, into that the grief, and we wanted to be raw, like super raw. And we also went to Auschwitz. This sounds absolutely horrendous.
With the working group.
We were
with Annina.
With Annina. Like, this is what do you, now that I'm saying it out loud, this sounds absolutely maniac. Well, fairly, we were driving for the residency place in Croatia and through Poland, but that's when we stopped it over there.
Wow.
And, you know, obviously it has effect in you.
Jesus.
And it went to the show.
Oh my God. This is why it's great to actually talk about this stuff and to hear these things, because it's super interesting. It's very interesting to hear you say that after having watched the show. That's not something you would ever write in a show description. No. To be like, we went to Auschwitz.
No.
And you can see that in the show. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That also leads me to a question I just wrote down for myself about working with collaborators. I have been talking to a lot of people very recently about these different roles in creative teams, about what it means to be a director and what it means to be an outside eye, and circus artists being both inside and outside the piece at the same time. And you're speaking about your artistic team, about working with them together, but am I correct that you're still the person who brought the team together?
Yes, in this sense, yeah.
So you kind of have an idea or a beginning or these people that you'd want to work with, and you facilitate you coming together. Does that change your role in the room? Are you their boss? You are producing the show.
I often do the producing as well, and they are produced by Lumo company. But Lumo company has their members, and it's a non-hierarchy company. But not all of the creation group is together from the beginning, usually also depending on the money and the budgeting and the funding, how that comes in. So I would say that originally with Fine Line, there was me and Annina, and then the whole working group came through the talking that we were kind of a mind mapping that who fits and what do we want, what can we kind of bring together, that who are we going to approach. And so it wasn't only me, definitely not.
I think, do you think that because you have responsibility over the production, that increases your artistic responsibility? Or do you try to separate those things in your mind? Like, oh, even though I'm producing this, the room, what happens there, we are an equal team, and then I'm in charge over here, but not over here. Like, is that?
I always try to separate the things,
yeah.
but it's super hard.
Yeah.
And it's also hard when you're at the studio and you're creating the piece together and you have these conversations, but when it comes to comes to the talk that someone needs to get that contact, pay it, then it's always me, or if there's no backup. So then the role changes because I get more work on my shoulders and I start worrying about that, and then things are getting to mix a little bit too much.
And how do you deal with that?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
complicated.
exactly. It's super complicated.
I've been talking about this with Olli Vuorinen. We have been having this ongoing conversation about directorship. And one of the things that came up in our conversation was about this production responsibility. That when you are in as an artist, but you also have production responsibility, but the other artists don't share an equal production responsibility, it's a complicated situation artistically, because you cannot, I don't believe that you can completely separate. You can't be in the room and somebody from your team says, I want a 6-meter tree, because your production brain is gonna say, no, because we don't have a band that fits a 6-meter tree. Like, it's very complicated. Olli told me about this French term, porteur de projet, which means the person who carries the project. So I think that in this case would be you, that you are a member of the artistic team, you have maybe brought the artistic team together and you're responsible for the creation, but you are still working from inside the team. You are not hierarchically over them as a director. Because then there are also some dynamics where the director is in the piece, but they're still clearly directing themselves and other people.
And not responsible for the production.
And not responsible for the production.
But I feel like this is, I don't know if I dare to say, but this is a circus art problem.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if any other field work the same as we do, because we are all doing everything.
Yeah.
And we also end up on the situation that we just don't know what to do with the task that is in our hand, but we just have to learn it in that moment. Or if we don't learn it in the moment, we learn it while we do it.
Yeah.
And none of us are saying no. And it's a lack of budget, it's a lack of production team, it's a lack of a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that all of us have edited videos, music, filmed it, performed, created, produced, applied funding, like we have done all. And then yet again, someone might say that you didn't do enough research that were...
And I think like earlier today you said, oh, I didn't end up having time on my tight wire. And I think that's because of this.
Exactly.
Like, because you're so busy dealing with all the other things that then at the end, on the week of the premiere, you're like, I wish the actual thing that I'm supposed to be good at is the thing that I have least amount of time for because of all this other stuff. Yeah, it is. I agree with you. I think it is a circus problem. You could say that it is also an advantage. And I am going to argue this point based on the fact that I have seen shows where the working group has been so separated that when you look at the piece, you're like, did these people ever talk? Like sometimes, even from a production standpoint, if they're not up to date in what's happening in the room and how the show is changing, then you do get these situations where the marketing materials don't match at all what is being performed. And this relationship between producer and artist, or artistic producer maybe, like it's a very interesting dynamic to think about more. But that just doesn't happen in our industry because those people don't exist. And those people don't exist because there's hardly enough money for us. So how would there be money for an extra person to do that?
Yeah.
But I know some companies in the UK that have been founded by an artist and a producer together.
Wow.
And then the working group is always like creative producer or artistic producer and the artist producing the work. And they're involved in every step, like all the way from the beginning to the touring.
Okay. Wow.
But that, yeah, I think you just need very special kind of people who want to do that role, that they want to be like creatively involved, but not necessarily the artist.
Well, truly.
Yeah.
But I think it's also about like what do you as a person, what kind of a group you want to have around you, because that then if you want to have the input from all the creative members, then they all need to be in the same boat in a way that you're available for the discussions, and the discussions are there that we can debate and go to the root that why did we make this choice, or what choices are we made based on what. But not all the performers or creators are in that sense. Some might just want to come and do what you say them to do. So
like often light design and sound design
Exactly.
can come from this perspective, like I have this brief and you're gonna, kind of create into my vision.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's about that. Well, how do you want to work, and what kind of a people you want to gather around?
Yeah.
But
And what kind of time you have.
Exactly.
Because the
also.
back and forth between a bigger creative team also takes way more time than having like a clear vision, and then you tell a light designer like, here are the scenes, there's 10 of them, this one is dark, this one is not.
Yeah.
And then they do use their creative skill within a framework.
In a frame, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, of course it's time assumed. Yeah.
Interesting. I think this conversation about like producer, creator is something that I would like to talk more in a larger setting, or like write about or something, because it is a problem, and maybe there's a way that we can create, like brainstorm some kind of workflow or some kind of framework or something to kind of figure out what is actually the labor outside of the creation room, and how do those things connect to each other. I don't have any kind of clear answer, but I'm just very interested.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any like you said, clear answer for it, because like it's often like outside of the circus art field that people are surprised and amazed about the thing that you do everything. I'm not only talking about me, but generally in circus art, people you do everything. You carry the things inside, you put them together. I mean, if it's in the schedule that you have to do this, you do it. But I don't know if it's like it should be awarded because of that. I think it's also a problem.
Yeah.
But then again, it's another loop that if you don't do that, then nothing happens.
Yeah.
And if that might be already for some other art form problem, or culture-wise different countries,
Yeah.
because the funding works differently, and then it's a long loop that needs to change from some profound core somewhere deeper than us making the art.
And the systems are very relevant. Like, just speaking to some French circus artists who are like, oh, but why don't you guys just hire a producer? And then we're like, well, we can't afford one. And then producers in France are also on intermittence.
Yes, exactly.
So then if you need one, you pay them,
very different.
Very differently. The whole structure is very different. But let's not get into funding politics right now. But in terms of producing, let's talk about O Festival for a second.
Haha, yay!
So it's about to happen in a couple of weeks. I wanted to ask you about why did you want to do that? Like why? Because now we've talked about you as an artist and you being a producer in order to present your art. But now in this festival context, you're also presenting other people's art. Like what was the jump to kind of go from, I want to make a festival and this is...
Well, I have to go back that much that originally it was like collectively circus artists around in Finland that the kind of the need came together that as a free artist in Finland that we want to create something together, which would be a nice that if it's a festival. That led to a lot of meetings and conversations, and end of the day now there's Oulu Festival and now there's Helsinki Festival.
Yep.
And I think they are both great festivals and they will happen. But to Oulu, it was needed because a lot of things happens in southern Finland, and then it's a cultural capital this year, and a lot of other excuses that we are kind of in the middle of Finland, that people from the north can come to Oulu as well and experience circus. And we need that. We definitely need that.
Yeah.
So that's originally the need of creating and making the festival happen in Oulu. And there's 5 of us, like 3 artist organizations or artists who are coming together and organizing it together. And then all of us have a smaller or bigger group behind us.
Yeah.
But there's like 5 core members from those groups that we are establishing the festival together and bringing other people to present their art. It's just amazing. It's like there's no better joy to, be able to bring people over, see their shows and present them to others. Because I feel like there's so much value, there's so much talent, and there's nothing like circus art. They're like literally contemporary circus can be anything. And I feel like there's so much to see and explore to everyone. You haven't seen nothing if you've seen one contemporary circus show.
Yeah, or one company.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. We are coming kind of close to our end. We surprisingly somehow managed to always talk for an hour, and then I'm always like, oh, will I have things to say? But of course, these are things that we really care about, so we talk about them passionately and a lot. At the end, I always like to ask people about the future and about what do they envision or what they hope. Like Lumo company is now celebrating 10 years, or this is year 11. And now this is the first edition of the festival. You are based in Oulu. You have your own space in Oulu, which is a new, big, really cool thing. You won an award this year from the STS, which is very amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What do you see for you going forward? Do you want to stay on stage as long as you can? Do you hope that the festival will keep going? Do you have any like dreams or visions about what you hope for yourself and for Oulu and for Lumo company?
I would be lying if I would say that no, I don't have any vision, because already as a company holder, you have to have vision more than 5 years forward. That you kind of have to have these plans. Nevertheless, they may change, or the production comes earlier or later or whatever, but you do have plans. So the future is there. I'm hoping to keep the place that we have, Pulukasa, that we can keep that running, because that has been like the source and the heart in Oulu, to actually also see a lot of people like you have seen and met people through this podcast, and bring those artists around. It's like so heartwarming, and also it's super important for us in Oulu to get to go to a place where you can actually rehearse as a professional. So that is definitely one thing, and one even, I would say, I don't know if it's a bigger or smaller, but we have this major event coming up late August, which is Ylitys, and two Thai dancers are gonna cross the mainstream in Oulu, high wire, and I've never done that, and that's like my mental push for the last 3 years. So I'm facing that, and also Sanja is facing that, but we come a little bit different places to face the high wire. That's a lot. That's a lot of focusing, and I will then know if I want to do it ever again, or what kind of a memory or what kind of an experience I will have on hand of after that. So also that will emphasize my work in the future, because I already have some ideas for the the work that I'm doing, but I don't know if they will happen. It's maybe based on this experience.
And do you think that you, as a tight wire walker, is still like going forward at the core of what you want to do? That you are not just going to be somebody who runs a company and directs and organizes festivals. That you, Hanna, as a tight wire walker, is like still at the very. It's a priority for you going forward.
I would love to be just an artist. I would love to have someone else who is, running the company.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that
because
would be a
you
dream.
sound so passionate about all of it and about organizing the festival and stuff. Like it doesn't sound like a mandatory thing. That it sounds like you also enjoy that part of your work.
Yeah, maybe there's like, what is it that keeps you busy, keeps you running? I don't I don't know if it's a wording, but yeah. But also there's another side. Truthfully, I just want to buy a house from Italy and move there.
Yeah.
It's balancing everything out. So yeah.
Yeah, it's just I think I always reflect that from my personal experience, because I, through my life circumstances, have just kind of ended up in a point where I don't really want to be on stage anymore. Like in my 5-year plan, I am not on stage 5 years from now.
Yeah.
And I'm super grateful that now, because of O Festival, for example, we can bring back a piece where I am on stage, and it's feeling really exciting. But in the long term, the thing that I'm interested in is not so much my practice as a performer or as like somebody doing circus. And I find it so inspiring and cool that there are people like you who have been doing tight wire for a long time.
And I'm old.
And well,
It's a fact.
It is a fact. It's not what I was trying to say, but it's impressive that you physically can, considering how long you have been doing it, and that you are still motivated to keep doing that. Like, that's cool. And I think that is a circus thing that people are like, well, I want to see what my body can do, and I want to keep going with this thing that I have been doing.
But the state of mind is a bit different. I have to say that, the interest or the what inspires me more are very different than what they used to be in the beginning of the career. Like, I mean, they have nothing in common anymore. So I feel like I haven't like evaluated yet if it's gonna be on stage or off stage so much yet. I want to create. I know that, and I want to develop the tight wire or the balance in me. I find it still very interesting where it can go, but it doesn't go to the extreme tricks, let's say.
Yeah.
I'm not so like the inspiration is not necessarily there.
Yeah.
But it has swifted and changed it to something else, which is only the beginning.
Yeah. Even though the discipline is the same, you are so profoundly different.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited for you to get to do the big brain thing, to get to do Ylitys. That's awesome. And it is happening. Like it is happening. It is happening. It is for sure. And then the future of that will be. So you have a big summer ahead of you.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Are you coming down to Helsinki for the festival?
Actually, no, because I'm doing a performance in Sweden and then a 3 weeks residency for a new production. So
great.
No, I will miss the Helsinki
So for everybody listening, if you want to catch Hanna this summer, it will be at Oulu, either for festival or for Ylitys. That would be cool to come and see, actually. We should see if we could come.
All the support from the friends.
I'm talking to Adam next to me right now because high wire is close to his heart as well. So once we finish up here, I'm pretty sure we're going to be talking some more about that.
Me too.
Thank you so much, Hanna. We really, really appreciate that you drove from Oulu to come and talk to us. And good luck with everything. And of course, we're going to see each other in a couple of weeks after this in Oulu, and looking forward to seeing everybody else who's going to be there.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. And it's amazing to see you in a couple of weeks too.
Yes.
Yay!
Yay!